Are you rethinking your purpose in life? Being centered in a strong spiritual connection is more important now than ever. Hi, I'm Bryn Blankinship, hypnotherapist, international instructor, and author. Each episode, along with Dr. Pat, I'll share my experiences with guiding spiritual regression clients into the afterlife and the soul lessons gained, prompting you to explore your own soul's journey and empowering you by shifting your perception of yourself and your place in this world. I want you to know that you're here by design, not by accident. You are not alone. You are loved. You are here on purpose for a purpose. When you stand in your truth and fulfill your purpose, you support others in fulfilling theirs. If this intrigues you, stay tuned in as we explore.
Hey everyone, welcome. Yes, we are today with Bryn Blankinship. I get to take this journey. Today we're talking with Afterlife teacher on soul passages. There are many, many things Bryn does, and there are many ways you can get a hold of her. BrynBlankinship.com is one way. Throughout the show, we'll also give you other ways. Bryn, thank you so much. This is really such an interesting episode.
I'm so excited to be here and talk about this.
So, soul passages. I love that, but many people don't have a sense of what that is. Now, how do we understand it? Well, in your case, you've created these amazing soul groups, and you're working with groups and individuals all over the world to understand this. And so many people that scratch their heads a little bit, they want to know, what is a soul group and how does it relate to who I am in this life or who maybe I become? So many questions get asked. I mean, we hear it a lot. Famous line from The Matrix, when you put me back in, I want to come back as very rich and very important. Hello, I don't think we have charge of that. Help us understand.
You could come back as that if that's what you need to do. But often we've done that before, and we come in to learn some other lessons, from different experiences that we have. And we incarnate with the same groups of people. So for our discussions, your soul group is that core group of souls that you incarnate with time and time again. You started together as souls, and you're making this journey together as souls. And you lovingly take on these roles to help one another, to support each other with your soul's purpose, right? So in doing this, you're rebalancing karmic relationships. And you incarnate with this group to share in these experiences together. However, you're going to sit on different sides of the seat of the experience to learn from it. So I'll come back to that. We'll come back to that in a moment. But you also have companion groups. So there's the core group that you're born with, and then you have other groups that agree to support you and your group with its group purpose, which in turn supports them with theirs. Okay, so they're helping us, we're helping them, because it's maybe about 8 or 10 people in a soul group, and more than 8 or 10 people in your life. And then you will have those people that are working on similar themes and experiences. So let me just give you one example. Souls working to cure cancer. So a core group of souls that are coming in to work to cure cancer would work with companion groups. And then someone will incarnate with cancer. Someone will incarnate as the loved one of a cancer patient. Someone will incarnate as a doctor, analyzing the body and its impact on cancer. Someone will incarnate as a psychologist, studying the emotional impact on cancer, on the client, on the emotional system. And then someone else may incarnate as a scientist, seeking to cure cancer, working in pharmaceuticals to create medicines to help cure a disease. So all of that would be like a core group plus companion groups. And then you have family lines. So family lines carry different illnesses sometimes that are genetic. And other times it could be an environmental group that have an illness because they live in a certain region and it's toxic and they get ill. So just speaking medically, those are some of the ways that souls can incarnate together to work on a cure. So why would someone take on this problem? Because they're helping, ultimately, they're sacrificing themselves to be part of the solution. Because when enough people have a problem, then the science comes in and starts to look for solutions, like polio and smallpox and things in our past, right? So we have those core groups of people. So yeah, I mean, it's mind-boggling when you think about how this works. It could be groups that are working to bring in the internet, right? And
Yeah,
those souls brought that in from other places, brought in that knowledge, and then we've all come into a time where we know how to use the internet. You know, even small countries that I've traveled to, everybody, they have their cell phone, they're connected to the internet. I mean, they have some of the modern technology available to them to assist.
yeah.
So we're connected that way.
It's fascinating you're bringing that up because I'm struck. There's one country I'm struck by, and it may or may not apply to what you're saying, but I'm fascinated by the degree of technology in India and the degree of people that are trained and have experts that really understand technology. Like, I mean, you wouldn't think about it, would you? You wouldn't
Exactly.
say India lead in technology, and I think that's perhaps an example, right?
I was in Bali last fall. I got off a fast boat on an island and everyone was coming up to give me a ride. And this one person came over and he said, "Would you like to use my Wi-Fi hotspot?" Like we're on a secluded island, but they're all connected that way because that's how they are able to help. You know, this person I know him from a past life. He stood out from the crowd. As we got to know each other that week, I understood more of why he was the one that I chose to take the ride with when the others were, you know, all coming at me. And we're all connected. Now, he was, I would say, a companion group for my trip that just brought back so much. You know, he's not part of my core group, but he's a supporting group that
Mhm.
helped me along the way. And then since my trip, a lot of my friends are in Bali. So I've been able to refer over to them, hey, this is a person if you want someone to take you on a trip. So it's interesting how we're all connected. And that was halfway around the world.
And I love that example. I want to talk about the roles. I mean, I reference Oliver from Germany a lot. He is the gentleman that when I put that really ridiculous job post out in, I don't even remember what year I did that to start the network, he showed up immediately. However, that's not the end of the story. Because of him working on this and also working with me, he decided to shift careers and he went back to school to become a therapist in Germany, to study psychology in Germany. And, how do you explain that? I mean, I meet him, he creates brilliance. He meets me and he decides I'm going to become a psychologist.
Exactly. Exactly. It's amazing, you know? So let's talk about those roles. So in the group, you might have the sage and the jokester. You know, you might have the villain and the victim. You might have the talker and the listener, right? So you have these core people in the group. There's always a jokester who's kind of, you know, when it gets too intense, he cracks a joke to help lighten the mood. And then you have your soulmates. You know, your soulmate is there's only one soulmate. It's your one and only. You balance one another. You help each other through life to grow, to make things easier. However, your soulmate is not always your romantic partner. They can be, but they could be a daughter, you know, mother, daughter, father, daughter. It could be teacher, mentor. So you take on these different roles depending on what the group decides they're going to come in and work on for this incarnation.
Wow.
You actually do participate in your incarnations. However, you might say, I want to be rich this time. You know, I want an easy one. And then the guides and your soul advisory council will say, now, do you really need another lifetime like that? Or, you know, because having a lifetime of wealth it isn't always smooth and easy. It can be challenging, right? If you're royalty, your family members are waiting for you to pass on so they could take that spot. Or you know, you just it's not always a smooth, easy life. You could have restrictions where you want to go out and do things, but you can't because of your status. You know, if you're a celebrity, you just can't go down the street and do things that you might be able to do had you not had all that recognition and wealth. But there's a lesson in that. So, yeah. And then there's a common purpose that the group shares. So the group, you have a group purpose and you have your individual purpose. So a group purpose could be helping others. It could be listening skills, like a group of therapists that, you know, a soul group that decides we're going to incarnate as therapists this time around. You could be a group working on creativity and building things, or you could share love of song, sound, color, vibration. So, like out in LA, when you're out there and you're in the music industry, or you're an actress or an actor, you meet up with these people that are going to help you along your path because maybe they're the producer and you're the singer. You're the songwriter and they're going to produce it. You know, it's a common mission for the soul group
Yeah.
that
You
we're going to work on sound or color or light, you know, depending on what the group is working with.
You hear these stories all the time. We don't have enough time in this interview to go through them. But if you ever look at the backstory of like James Cameron and, fabulous director, producer, and you look at him bumping into people and you think about it and you say, James Cameron, Terminator, and then you see the people he picked for that movie who have become a life journey with him. One of them actually became his wife. And you just see that. The same thing with like an Avatar, where you see James Cameron and Sigourney Weaver. I mean, their
Yes,
lives are so intertwined. You look at that and you say, is there a movie that he's going to make where she's not in it? So, I mean, I'm giving you a pop culture reference because it's something to think about when it's that obvious, but it's not always that obvious.
exactly. I had a client who his soul group, he and colleagues who were lawyers, and one of the members of their soul group was a stripper. And the way they came together is she needed an attorney. I think she had a car accident. She needed an attorney. They met, and then, you know, that connected the soul group. So that's how they're helping one another, you know? So there's so many ways this can manifest. You know, what does a soul group learn from life challenges?
Yeah.
Compassion to others, always top of the list. Learning to trust the process. You know, a lot of people, they want things to happen and they're doing the work, but they're afraid to give it time to manifest. They're afraid to trust the process. You know, that's part of the learning, to have trust in the entire process of creating and then letting it play out and then letting the people come forward to support you. I mean, I've worked on that one. I'm still working on that one. Ultimately, it gives a chance to learn balance. Okay. So you're balancing karmic relationships by playing a similar role or a different role in your current life. So a villain one time could play the victim the next time to balance that out and experience both sides of it. Having love in one life and losing love and then not having love at all in another life can help balance that equation, but help you learn about love by having it and having lost it. Sometimes a soulmate will sit one out. They don't incarnate, but they help from the other side. And you know, there's a learning experience that comes with that. And then it's whatever the soul needs for the experience. Like as a group, it's what that group is now ready to take on and experience, and develop new skill sets, strengthen existing skill sets. And you know, it's really about learning to manage your own stuff and step back to allow others to manage theirs. You
Mm.
don't have to run in and rescue. You can certainly help people, but if you're always rescuing, there's a clue there as to the role that you're playing. But it could be from a lifetime where you didn't help that person and now you're overcompensating, trying to help them out.
I think people, when they take this journey, they have many, many questions. And what you're doing is you're helping us understand. First of all, it's not a unidimensional dynamic. It's not a one size fits all. There are many different parts that play. And you've worked with people in a soul group, and you've looked at different chapters in their lives. You have clients that you've worked with where unless they work with you and you can help put the pieces together, it becomes a mystery how things unfold, especially in a soul group.
Yes. So when I have someone in a past life or a soul expression, spiritual regression type session, I will try to explore more about their soul group and those key players. It's about that recognition to help empower the client. It helps acknowledge something they already know and put them into a position where they can
Mhm.
feel empowered, recognizing, oh, I knew that, right? Which is a connection to spirit. I knew that about myself, or I'm not surprised that that person is in my soul group.
Yeah.
So I want to talk a moment about, if it's okay, about this group, soul group in my book. I made a couple of notes here so I can keep track. It is chapter 14, and it is Elsa, John, and Elsa's twin sister, Natalie. Okay, so that they are part of the same soul group. Elsa and John are soulmates, and they balance one another and they make life easier. And they're often romantic partners. Sometimes John stays back and helps from the spirit realm. Currently, Elsa and Natalie are twins in current life because this gave them a chance to share experiences simultaneously. But they all often also incarnate as mother-daughter. So let me give you some examples of what that might look like. Their soul group purpose is to communicate with their hands through symbols, not always words. So they're learning to be of service to others. So Elsa, my client, has had several past lives with sign language where she would sign. So she was a teacher for a deaf school. So Elsa was a teacher for a deaf school. Elsa married John in that lifetime, and they were raising Natalie, Elsa's niece. So it wasn't mother-daughter, it was aunt and niece, but it was a mother-daughter role. Then another lifetime, Elsa was in Poland during World War I. She is hiding children in her attic. She uses sign language to communicate with them because there are soldiers on the street outside, and that's what she had to do. And these children were 4, 5, 6 years old, all the way up to teenage. There's 15 children in her attic. It was quite an amazing session, but she used sign language. And then Natalie was her sister in that lifetime. Natalie lived in London. She was an actress, and so she would send money over to support the effort and help keep these children safe in the attic. And then I'm not sure what happened with John, but I believe later after the war, she met up with him. Another lifetime, Elsa and Natalie were cave women, and they communicated with their hands and not with words. So that's an example of soul groups and how they would go through the different dynamics to work out things, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's fascinating when we look at this and we look at, I mean, if you only take one piece of the pie, you really don't get the whole picture of a journey, a multiple life journey.
Yes.
And, how many people have you worked with where they're like, I don't really understand what's going on right now. It doesn't make sense to me. And there are multiple examples of this. And sometimes you can't make sense of it from your day-to-day life. There are just some things that to the average person, it's mind-boggling to them, and it causes them to get very stuck sometimes, don't you think?
Yes. And that's when I work with people. They're like, you're going to think this is crazy. And I'm like, no, I'm not. But this keeps happening to me. And why do I keep running into this person? Or it's just really random, right? But it's not random because everything is on purpose. And then when you start to understand it on a deeper level, you didn't make mistakes. You did what you were supposed to do with the information that you had at the time, right? With that person. But now that you see how you could have done it differently in
Yeah.
hindsight, then
Yeah.
you can bring that to your relationships. Like if you're in a past relationship and you weren't kind to that person or you took them for granted, you learn from that, but you can bring that into your current relationship and be kinder. So it served its purpose, and everyone on all sides of the experience in a human level is working with the knowledge they have at this point. We come here, we don't know all the stuff we know in the spiritual realm. We come in with what we're supposed to work with, right? But when we know more, we can do better when we understand from
Yeah.
a deeper place.
Yeah.
So is it okay? We were
Yeah.
going to
Well,
talk.
I want to talk a little bit because I want folks to know you and I spent time together doing my past life regression. And, I've tried to explain to it, what my experience was. But when you step back from it and you look at it from your perspective as the expert in this, you find the interesting intertwinings and relationships that a person like me wouldn't have been able to connect the dots to.
Well, you're getting the information like a download and you're understanding it the way you're getting it. But I'm taking the experience of all the clients I've ever worked with, plus my training, and putting names to it and putting structure to it. So let's go back to your session.
Yeah.
So you are working with learning to go it alone and to learn to love yourself. So we discovered that your soul group was your father, your mother, your best friend, and your stepmom, right? It's
Yes.
not always your family. It
Yeah.
could be other people. So that was your soul group. Then we have your companion group, which is your best friend's sister. I'm in a companion group, and we learned that I was an order keeper and a seer in that lifetime. And then I have a colleague that Dr. Pat knows, and Yvonne, and she's a teacher, and she's a teacher now. All right. So Dr. Pat's soul group is working on lessons in compassion, fighting for love and others simultaneously, the pain and agony of their decisions. And the ultimate lesson is when we fight for power, we lose. But when we fight for the people and the rights of others, we win. So Dr. Pat experienced several lifetimes in that session. She was a colonial warboat captain, teaching others to fight. She was an Egyptian warrior, and she was asking the Pharaoh to release the slaves, which he didn't want to do. She was in Atlantis, where she was a powerful, Atlanteans are powerful super beings without form, but it can take on form. She was able to come in and guide the Atlanteans that way, right? And they became so intellectual, they didn't understand humanity and they were killing each other. So when we fight for power, we lose, we'll be destroyed. But when we're fighting for the people, we win. So the Atlanteans have left and come back again. There's also a Greek Olympian lifetime with the same lessons,
Yeah.
and even a lifetime with Jesus, where she was supporting behind the scenes and making things happen, the way she supports others in this lifetime. So rising above what is known in man's mind and trusting the guidance is what we learn from those sessions. from that soul group and the companion groups that are working on these lessons?
Well, I want to just say this, and I know we got to wrap up, but I didn't put it together till I just heard you. So what do you think I've done recently outside of the network? There are things I'm passionate about. So one of the things I've done is I am very passionate about making sure Social Security and Medicare and Medicaid don't go away. So I've already started to buy domains to create a campaign to get 10 million signatures. Now, what does that look like? Why? People are
Fighting
like,
for the
why are
rights of
you
others,
right? And so the
right?
people are like, don't you have enough to do, Pat? So sometimes it's not about how much time you have to do, because the way I hear you describing it, when the soul is leading the charge, it's not about how much time, right? It's not
Yeah.
about keeping a clock on something. It's you're compelled to do something, and it may not make sense to other people.
And you're compelled to do it with your skill set. So you're like,
Oh,
hey, I can do this and this could help. And here's how I'm going to help. And once you get it started, it'll start to roll and take care of itself, right?
exactly. Bryn, thank you so much for today. Closing message. How do people work with you? How do they become certified at what you do?
Yes,
Tell
we have
everybody
classes
all of
coming up.
that.
Classes are
Good.
coming up in April and May. We had a change to those dates. April and May, you can contact me through brynblankinship.com, the hypnoregressioninstitute.com. It's an international course online. We'd love to have you and help get more hypnotherapists out there in the world doing this work.
And I'll tell you, Linda's thinking about it.
Really?
When Linda said, can I learn that? I'm like, okay, we just got to figure out like how to just get you signed up. Bryn, thank you so much for everything. We have more to
Thank you.
come with Bryn. We've given you a small snapshot. Please take a look at what she's done. And this really comes, if you're me, it comes from the place of, I don't know what's going on. I'm not making sense of it now. Sometimes you have to go deeper. We'll see you next time.
You've been listening to Afterlife Teacher, Soul Lessons bringing you full circle with Bryn Blankinship and Dr. Pat. Tune into Transformation Talk Radio for more discussions of the soul's journey across different lifetimes and soul lessons gained, helping you to consider the deeper reason you are here. Bryn shares her wisdom spanning 20 years of guiding spiritual regression clients into the afterlife and connecting them with their spiritual team and soul's purpose to bring them full circle, helping you gain insight into your own soul's purpose while supporting others in fulfilling theirs. Living in partnership with your soul, with less worry and greater trust, you can be in divine flow and thrive. For more information on becoming a certified hypnotherapist and regressionist and assisting with the global transformation taking place, visit brynblankinship.com.